There's a lot of excitement out there right now about ebooks, those plastic little devices that look like books with black and white print, but they're not books. Publishers are excited because they think they might revive failing book sales. Some people like them too because you can get anything you want with the push of a button. But it's not like you're going to hang out and curl up next to the fire with a computer. But what is it about books? Why are we holding on to such old technology? Isn't this the information age? Shouldn't we be moving beyond books? Today on The Fast Draw, we look at the future of reading.
How we read what we read. You know, the first reading and writing took place over 5,000 years ago in what is today Iraq. And now we have these ebooks. It reminds me of Marshall McLuhan, who said, "The medium is the message." I read this in college. Let me see if I can remember it. Here's the line of thinking. Imagine that you're writing on a stone tablet. What are you going to read and write? Probably only important things, maybe religious things, but along comes paper, papyrus, and it's easier to write. You can write your commands on a piece of paper and send them over the hill, extending your power. You can write things about money and secular things. You can write poetry. It's a whole new world. The properties of the medium affect what is written on the medium, is the idea there. Now let's look at what's happening today. Just a few decades ago, it was all print. Now it's computers, cell phones, and all these ebooks that we're hearing about. We used to spend hours on a book, and today we might spend just a few minutes on each site.
And a lot of smart people, including Christine Rosen at the Ethics and Public Policy Center, say we're getting a lot more information these days, but we're not necessarily better off for it.
What we know from how the brain stores what we read, this does have an impact on what we can remember of what we read. So there have been studies done that show, if you're reading stuff on a screen and you're jumping from point to point, you're following hyperlinks, later you're not going to retain the same amount of information because your brain is forced to multitask. And although there are some benefits to doing that, I think there are also some serious concerns.
Anybody who's read a good book knows what it's like to be lost in another world. You're essentially being absorbed by someone else's imagination. It's not like people are going to go clicking through Shakespeare. I mean, they might, but probably not. Today, 1 in 5 teenagers say they never read for pleasure. But they all surf online, which means they're not getting absorbed into one world, they're jumping between worlds. And one neuroscientist said this is dividing us into 2 groups, people of the screen and people of the book. Because what happens is when you're browsing online, clicking from site to site, it's actually stimulating pleasure centers in your brain. And this is what has us coming back for more all the time, but at the same time, it's creating kind of a mass culture of attention deficit disorder for us all. And I'm guilty too.
Of course, there are upsides to reading online. We've got access to a huge amount of information. It's fast, and there's a variety. Google says that there are over 1 trillion pages out there to search for. Also, there's the environmental impact. Every year, over 12 billion magazines are printed, and most of them end up, as you guessed it, in a landfill or incinerator. Of course, reading online has an environmental impact as well, with the generation of electricity and so forth. But you know what? It's not really one or the other. Both are probably going to be around for a long time. And maybe these ebooks will someday provide some sort of in-depth, satisfying experience that is similar to reading a book, and the speed and ease of the internet at the same time. Could it be the best of both worlds? We're probably going to find out sometime soon. And that's all she wrote. I had to say all she wrote. Oh, sorry, I couldn't help myself.